No shortcuts. This is coming from John 15, verse 4 through 6. It says, "Abide in me and I in you, as a branch cannot bear fruit of itself except it abide in the vine. No more can ye except ye abide in me." So Jesus Christ is saying here plainly, there's no shortcuts here. If you want to have that life and life more abundantly, if you want to have the riches and you want to have the safety and you want to have the peace, I believe it says in Ecclesiastes that God has given unto a man these blessings, and the greatest blessing is the fact that you could actually enjoy the blessings, because there's a man who labors for absolutely nothing, but yet he still labors. So when God has given you the ability to gain blessings and another ability to actually partake in the blessing, which means eat and enjoy it, then that is the true blessing of Him, of abiding in Him. But when you go ahead and you take shortcuts and you say, well, it's easy to get money. I could steal, I could lie, I could cheat the system, and I could get money that way. And then maybe I could go to God and ask forgiveness. And maybe I could give Him a tenth of what I've made in order to excuse or pardon what I've done. But God says the very works, the very thoughts of a wicked man are an abomination. Better yet, the money in which you shall bring. So when you lean to your own understanding, you're only reaping vanity unto vanity. And vanity plus vanity equals vanity. So instead of leaning to your own understanding, just wait for the peaceable fruits to abide within you. Don't worry about the food. Don't worry about the shelter. Don't worry about tomorrow. God will take care of all that and more. But all He wants you to do when He says these words, He's saying, just seek ye first the kingdom of heaven and all its righteousness, that everything else could be added unto you. And He says that because of the tough love in which He has for you. He doesn't want you to go ahead and do all these works that the world does in order to gain money and forget about Him. Because the time you think you're blessed, you're really cursed. Because He says, you haven't done anything to serve me. I don't care for your money. I don't care for your stuff. But I do care about you. So look for the greater calling. Look for the greater message. Look for the fact that this is a way that has no shortcuts at all. You have to walk. You have to sweat. You have to toil. You have to cry sometimes. There's no other way. If Jesus Christ had to do it Himself, what greater need do we have? If He did it and He gained eternal life, we have to do it so that we could gain eternal life. In 5 it says, I am the vine, ye are the branches. He that abideth in me, and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit. For without me ye can do nothing. Jesus Christ confirms the word which says that without me you could do absolutely nothing. There's no shortcuts here. You think that you're blessed? There's no blessing in that. Because God could go ahead and trim down your branch or that tree which you think is so blessed anytime that He wants to. As He said in that parable with the rich man, He says that the rich man said, I'm going to bring down or break down my barns and build greater. But he didn't know that his souls required the very night. So when you understand that you are the branches and that you can actually bring forth much fruit, this is almost like a confirmation. So if I trust in God, then He will allow much fruit to be gotten by me. So that means that I wouldn't be comfortless. I will actually have the Comforter. And I will also have a lot of other great attributes to add to me. If you have a resume and you only have a few things, maybe a good introduction, but you have no experience, that may not cut it for some people, especially for that greater position that's paying more money. But what happens when you have a great introduction with experience? And you also have, recommendations to add to it. This is what God does for you, and this is what He's saying. You don't have to have anyone bear witness of you. He says, I'll do it myself. And so what greater need do we have than having Jesus Christ on our side to speak to the people and to make the way straight for us and to profess ourselves to the world for us. In 6 it says, if a man abide not in me, he is cast forth as a branch and is withered, and men gather them and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. So there's a mystery in this, because it says that he cast forth a branch and is withered. The men shall gather them and cast them into the fire, and they are burned. So you know that many are called, but few are chosen. So you could be called a branch, but when you don't make your calling and your election sure, you could lose your calling. So if you lose your calling, that same branch which could have brought forth much fruit, which could have helped your family, which could have helped you, which could have gained you wisdom, knowledge, and understanding about the precepts of God and how to carry yourself through every trial and tribulation that this world may bring, all the good that this branch could bring forth could be nothing in a moment, because you don't wait patiently for it to root and to gain the true fruit of life. So what happens when you go ahead and you're strong 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and then you just stop because you think you're good? He says, well, you become withered. Because as he says in 5, for without me you can do nothing. So if you stop thinking about his goodness, if you stop working, as Paul even says, we have to keep working until we receive that rest, or until we enter into that rest. If we don't enter into that rest yet, then we have to keep working. But there's some that are going to say, well, I've done enough because I fasted 21 days or maybe even longer. That means absolutely nothing. Those are works. But God looks for your faithfulness. How long could you continue in the faith? How long could you continue in the word? So when you are withered because you lean to your own understanding, thinking yourself to be something when you're nothing at all, he says, then you are in the hands of men. So as you remember in other topics, the prince of the power of the air, that's interpreted the devil, now he has full control over you. Now the men of this world have full control over you. And what do you think they're going to do when you profess godliness and when you were so strong all those years? They're going to say, oh, look, the branch is plucked down. The hedge is taken away. There's no more a comforter for him. So now is our time to devour. And they're not going to spare it. So sometimes you have to see what's waiting for you on the other side of that hedge in order for you to consider what God is trying to protect you from. You think that he's going and having you fast all this time because he hates you, and that, you know, maybe he's making a mock at you, or maybe he's waiting for you to just turn away. But no, he's giving you that tough love because he's saying, if you don't do this, how in the world are you going to be able to take that hit and turn the other cheek? No, you're going to want to fight. And what happens when you fight? Instead of calling upon me, that means that you're leaning to your own understanding. So then that means you're in the man's or the world's hands, not God's. So that's what this message is all about. If you don't understand all the works of God or why he's doing certain things, you don't need to. Your faithfulness is good enough. And if you understand that there's no shortcuts, then you understand that you have to wait on him to direct your path. And so not only will you be in men's hands, but then after that they have beaten and they have scorned you and they have put you down and called you nothing. Then he says, you're cast into the fire, which is interpreted hell. You don't gain anything. All your work, if it was work, was in vain. Because God doesn't look at the longevity of your work, how long you've been in the work. He looks at the end of the conversation, the end of your journey. So that's why you should show forth the good works of God unto the very end. Don't look